Hey coaches, welcome back. This is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. How you guys doing today? Hey, today I am doing my first answer of the Questions of the Week series from my social media accounts. And today I got a pretty good question about should we be practicing all year long and what's the schedule for practice should look like before the first game. And that's what we'll be answering today. But before we get into that in detail, if you get a chance, please subscribe below. Hit the notify button. If you do like the video, please hit like. If you'd like to leave me a comment, whether you liked it or not, that would be great too. So please subscribe. It helps the channel greatly. It's free, and you can help me bring more free content to the youth football coaching community. I'd really appreciate it. So let's jump right into the question. So here's the question about practice time. How long before games start do you think practices should begin? I see a lot of teams training, even playing basically all year. I understand that you want to gain an advantage, but too much practice would, in my opinion, burn out these young players. Training for months during the off season with no games would discourage my players. So do you have some sort of preseason, off-season schedule? Coach M&M from my Facebook group, which I have two over there, a public and a private. If you could find the private one, answer the questions, and the answers are good, you may get to go into private. I've got a lot of kind of unique stuff over there that I'm doing with posting things that I don't post out in public, and you get to ask me questions like this. So let's get right into answer. I think there's like 3 or 4 questions in here that I looked at. So let's go ahead and hit this first one. How long before games start do you think practices should begin? Well, I think the first thing you need to do is probably check with your league, because many leagues, especially rec leagues, will have rules about how much practice time, how much before you can practice, and that sort of things. There's rec leagues, there's select rec leagues, and then there's travel. I think I've done an article on all the different kind of leagues there are. And so you've got a travel teams, you've got select teams that are in leagues that have rules around this, and then you've got recreational teams, and then you've kind of got YMCA, I-9 kind of teams that are really more rec versus competitive rec. So I would say check with your league, see how it goes. But officially, the time is usually around 4 to 6 weeks. I know I've been coaching for a very competitive recreational league here in Keller, Texas, right outside of Fort Worth, just north toward Denton. We have 2 seasons, and our practices officially start between 4 to 6 weeks out, depending on, the holiday they're trying to beat in or beat out, get around kind of thing. So, and then we can't really keep teams together, so we can keep up to 6 players together, so we don't really do too much preseason. I may get some of the skill seasons together a couple of weeks before, but since I don't have a whole team, I'm not really getting into that. But I know that a lot of unofficial, when I used to, keep teams together, I would do 4 to 12 weeks before a game, and usually 4 weeks before the official. So that would give me 8 to 10 weeks of kind of team practices. And definitely not all of those were 3 or 4 times a week or 2 hours. They were light practices before we got into kind of official stuff. I also know a lot of leagues, and I know in high school, in my youth league, when I played in my junior high, and I know a lot of junior highs and high schools around here do it still, that you have to have 2 weeks of non-contact practice before you can put on pads. And so that was, I know in Arvada, outside of Denver, that was a league issue too. So there's some rules around that you've got to pay attention to. So the other thing now, because, the concussion protocols that are going, everybody's moving from contact to non-contact, and they're definitely moving away from contact and moving into basically no contact. And many are saying, you need 1 day a week of the 5 that there's no contact or maybe even no practice at all, and have less than 4 practices with the game. So really only 4 sessions of playtime. And I know that Keller only has during season 3 sessions of playtime, which is 2 practices in a game. And before games, we can have 3. Just 3 practices. So a lot of leagues are doing that. So you need to check around that, what you can do there. A lot of folks are saying no more than 90 minutes of actual contact for the week. So, you have a lot of drills or whatever, but you just need to count whatever your contacting drills are during the week and have less than 90 minutes for the total. In some leagues will say that's part of the game or not part of the game, or they'll add another 30 minutes for 120 minutes, which counts the game. So you need to kind of look around that. I know USA Football and the NCAA have some rules around this stuff going out. I know Pop Warner and AYFL has some stuff. So you just need to check with your leagues and league commissioners about what this contact, non-contact, and how many weeks before can you have. And then, once you know all that, you really need to see what your players and parents expect of you and staff and what other teams are kind of doing within your league to make a decision on how long maybe you want to start before that. I don't like to go too crazy, although I am over the top because I am here in Texas, which is probably more so than a lot of folks. And as a younger football player, when I played, I didn't really like baseball all that much or basketball. And so I wanted to play football all the time, and they didn't have it when I played. But I know KYA here in Keller has 2 football seasons of tackle, both fall and the spring. So that's another thing that you can think about there. But if I was coaching a select competitive team here in Texas, I would do 3 to 4 sessions a week, about 10 weeks out. That would, and then maybe the last 4 to 6 weeks in that 10 weeks would be full pads, and maybe 3 times a week. And we'll get into what the schedule looks like in a couple of slides. But yeah, I would say about 8 to 10 weeks out, maybe. If I'm in a select competitive league, I'm still of the belief you should play multiple sports and not focus until, you're way into high school and you've basically chosen what you want to do. And even then, if you're a pitcher or in a football player or a skill player on another sport, or you're definitely good, I don't know if you should focus until maybe you get a scholarship. So just be careful. I know they pushed a lot of guys out of sports when I was playing, and I hear it's worse now. And I'm not sure that's a good thing because I know a lot of NCAA coaches and NFL coaches like players that have played multiple sports. So how long before games start do you think practice should begin? 8 to 10 weeks for me in a competitive select kind of travel league that I would be coaching there. Let's see, second part of his questions, or one part. I see a lot of teams training basically all year long. This is not recommended by the football experts. It's not recommended, and this is for kids under 16. Not recommended by medical professions. I don't recommend the one sport myself either, and I coach and played, basically, I played multiple sports as a kid, but I, coach basically one sport now, 2 seasons of football here in Keller. But I know that basically half the players on one season team, because we don't keep teams together, they'll go off and play baseball. So we basically have new teams every season. Because they're all playing other sports, and that's fine. I don't like them playing 2 sports in one season. I think that's definitely way too much. But I know my sons have played multiple sports. I played multiple sports, and many NFL and NCAA coaches want you to play multiple sports. And so I don't recommend just playing football all season long. I think you're going to get too many injuries. You've got loss of family time, takes away from schoolwork, player burnout. And I don't think it cross trains you to do other things, mind, body, spirit, if you're basically into one thing and that's all you're doing. So I know that these coaches say the same thing, and players, you can go read players from the NFL talk about it. So I don't think you should be training all year to play football, and especially in this concussion protocol era where everybody's worried about that. I know for me at youth football, I don't really see these big hits until you get to about 12 or 11. Everything else is pretty simple as far as I see. We do start seeing some concussions. I've seen more concussions at 12U level lately. But I think for the younger kids, it's kind of just, like bouncing cars. Everybody's kind of bouncing off each other. But so no, I don't recommend training like full pad in hard training all year long. No, I think you should basically be doing this. So this would be my off-season schedule. Man, when I had a team in Arvada, we were kind of a select rec kind of high-end team. We had team baseball and team basketball, especially for all the skill players, and that's what we did in the off-season. We tried to keep as many skill players together for basketball and baseball. And, like myself, who early on in my football career was just a lineman, I would have been left out of that. And that's kind of what happens in these team things, that your big, slow linemen kind of get left out of these. And so we started these Iron Man, Superman off-season workout programs that was basically high-intensity workouts, Tabata, once or twice a week. And one of the coaches or parents, or we would sign the kids up for camps that had these, and we'd try to do 1 or 2 a week to keep them basically in shape. I definitely encourage them to play other sports. I think, you just need them out of the house, not playing Xbox 24/7. Get on a flag football team. 7-on-7's become really big here in Texas. Flex football is also out there now. So do something to get outside. And I don't consider 7-on-7 flex or flag tackle football. Those to me are pretty much 2 different type of sports, and they're non-contact. So I think, even though you would say, that's kind of all season training, I don't really think, to me, 7-on-7 is real football. And you can talk to a lot of the coaches about this. I personally played a ton of racquetball when I was in high school. That was a big sport. I got faster. I played tournament, competitive level. My 40 time went from a 5 to a 4.7. In one season doing that. And then I learned squash, which is even harder and better than racquetball, handball, pickleball, tennis, boxing, wrestling, track. Those are all things you can do in the off season that will make you better, which is, I'm trying to get quickness, your feet, hand-eye coordination. All of those things will do that. And basically, I would recommend players in the off season from football really to try to play other sports and get off the couch and stay in shape. And that's really what my off-season schedule for a player under 16, which is what, these 5U to 12U players that I've been coaching, that's what they should be doing. I do recommend some kind of organized sport with coach or dad workouts nowadays, because unlike in the 60s, 70s, 80s when I grew up, where we were always active outdoors. My mother would send me out and say, be back for dinner. And I know we were at the back basketball court and tennis courts and swimming and all that. We did all that outside. I know today, parents, and I know from my kids, we just didn't let our kids roam around neighborhoods like that. We were worried, there's just so much weird stuff going on in the world. So I know a lot of parents don't just let their kids do that anymore. And so I think it's best for some of those kids to get into organized sport leagues to get this outdoor time to stay in shape. Otherwise, they're sitting on the couch and playing Xbox. And so I really recommend everybody to be playing a sport. It's kind of like in middle school, our football coaches were, hey, in the off season we work it out, but for sure you're going to run track. Even if you don't like track, you're going to throw the shot or discus or run track just, so we can see you and keep you in shape. And I kind of understand what's going on there now. So that would be my off-season schedule is, football is from September to November. And then, you may start practices in July. So there's, November to July that is available to be doing other things and getting better and training, because champions are made in the off season. So here is what I would call my preseason schedule if I'm kind of doing a select travel kind of thing, but also you should check your league rules because all this would matter. So I'm going to recommend youth football. And look, I'm from Texas, so we're over the top with this. And, I know a lot of you could probably 3/4 this or half this and be fine, but this is what I would recommend if I'm in a competitive league that I'm recruiting players and having to deal with. And I'll probably not be as much as a lot of other coaches. So I'm recommending 8 to 10 workouts prior to the first game with 3 to 4 practice sessions a week. I'm going to limit the contact at first and progress into full contact with the limits of kind of what NCAA and USA football are saying, and try to be around that. So I do know, even in the rec leagues with my skill players, I like to get everybody together at least 2 weeks before everything kind of gets going, and no pads on Saturday and maybe, a Tuesday, and just do some high intensity training, Tabata stuff, maybe play a 7-on-7 game or a flag game, do some plays against air and simulate those things. Basically learn some stuff and schemes, hand out some plays. And I may just do skill players and a center and some receivers and nothing too fancy. I may sign up for a 7-on-7 league to do this thing. So that's about 2 weeks. My first 2 weeks of kind of just getting everybody together and getting in shape kind of thing is what that is. And then after those 2 weeks, we'll go into kind of helmets and shoulder pads to kind of get used to helmet and pads and weight. And I may do 2 or 3 of those a week. I'm probably getting everybody involved at that point. It's just light hitting, getting in stances, hitting blocking bags. You can do some of those Seahawk rugby tackling drills without pads. We're talking about technique, position drills, handing out plays, really getting in shape, learning our count and cadence so nobody jumps off sides. And I'm going to run it kind of like a normal practice with 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, but there's no player contact. There's no, I guess I should say, for these first 4 weeks that we're talking about, the 2 and 2 here, I'm not really holding, roll call, and that's the other thing. You're not getting X's if you don't show up to practice. This is all like in July and early August. People are still on vacation and doing things. I'm not getting tied up about this. Now, do I not like it? No, but I'm not going to really hold this against the players that aren't kind of showing up during this time. And then maybe 6 weeks to 8 weeks, maybe, depending on holidays and school starting and kind of all this kind of fit in there. Because there is, usually a big holiday, at least for us, a week or something that goes on in here. This is when we're officially going to put on pads and get into the game. And this is, KYA has either from 4 to 6 weeks. There's their official practices where they've allotted teams, and now everybody's in full pads. Now, some leagues, when that first starts, if you haven't done this stuff before, they may have hey, you got to go a week without full pads. So check for that. But if I'm following my schedule here, I'm in 6 weeks of full pads now, 3 to 4 practices a week at 2 hours. And these other 2 weeks before, I don't think I said that or not, they may be only an hour long versus 2 hours or an hour and a half. So you can adjust that there. But now that I'm in 6 weeks, I prefer 3 definite full pad practices a week and full pads, and 1 probably, if I'm not having a game, in shoulder pads and helmets. And I'm limiting the amount of actual contact now, as all this concussion stuff protocols have come out. But I still like to be in full pads so everybody gets in shape, especially here in Texas where it's hot. You got to get in football shape with the pads and understanding what that feels like and carrying all that around, what the heat is, how to deal with it, and that sort of thing. And like I said, I'll probably have 3 full pad practices and 1 shorts and helmet shoulder pads if I'm at 3. If I go to 2 practices a week, they're definitely all full pads. And if I only have 3. So what I'm trying to get in, and you may need to add a 2-week schedule to this, is I'm really trying to get in 20 practices, not full pads, but just 20 practices before a first game, so I can get all those reps. I'm trying to get the reps, especially the offense installed. With all this preseason stuff, you're really trying to get your offense installed. So I hope I've answered that preseason. So I'm recommending 8 to 10 weeks with about 6 weeks of full pads. My in-season schedule, now this is what I prefer, but once again, check your league rules, because this is different than what KYA allows me to do. I personally like each week a 3 2-hour practice plus the game. We're at 2 only an hour of practice a week. I really like the 3 practices a week so I can do a day of offense, a day of defense. My 3rd day is a special teams game prep practice, and I can really do almost everything with 3 2-hour practices a week to get into that game. I feel comfortable with that. If the team wants a 4th practice, that's definitely probably a non-pad or just helmet shoulder pads and no hitting. But I believe kids, can get enough from that, and they need to basically do homework, go to church, spend time with their family, do other things, not sit at football practice all night, because what is it? Some goofy number, like only 1% of youth football players, it's like 0.001% are even going to become NFL players, and a percentage may play D1 college ball. So all of these youth kids, it's so far-fetched that they're ever actually going to make the millions and millions of dollars that all of these people think they're going to make. And most of this playtime and playing one sport and focus is really an adult-driven situation, not so much what the kids want. So I would say this about year-round. If your son is dying and chomping at the bit, or child, let's say, for other sports, let's just say child, is chomping at the bit to play football all year long, and that's all they want to do and all they want to talk about, then that's probably maybe what you should do. But if they're not the one that is into it, then I would probably not put my child in all year football. That's where that would be. It's really the child's choice, and if they're just, wanting to do it. I know there was one year or my son had played a fall and I think a spring and a fall football season, and he also was playing select soccer in between those, and he decided to take football off one season, which he regretted because we won a Super Bowl that season. But I let him take off, and he went and played select soccer and had a great time, and he would practice with us every now and then. But I thought it was great that he did it. I enjoyed him playing soccer. He got faster and made new friends. And so I think it's really up to the child and what they want to do, and you've got to make a decision there, and that's where that is. So hopefully I haven't talked too long on that. So practice time. How long before games you think practices should begin? Depends on your league, but I'm looking at 6 to 12 weeks probably. I prefer 8 to 10. I don't like them players playing all year long. I think that's way too much. I think there's burnout. I think there's family stuff. I think they get too focused on one sport and don't learn how to be athletes in other sports. There's a whole myriad of issues going around that NCAA and NFL coaches will talk about, not to be a one sport player. So that's my deal on that. Training for months during that with no games. Yeah, I can't see that. I think, if they want to do something, definitely flag 7-on-7 basketball. Do something else as a team, another sport that you can kind of control, that they're getting their workouts in. I don't discourage my football players from playing all year. I think that's up to them. But, I think I would not recommend it. And hopefully you see what I would do for preseason, off-season schedule in the presentation I just gave. So hopefully I've answered your question, Coach Eminem from Facebook. I appreciate the question. Love talking to coaches. Thanks so much for making that comment. Hopefully this has helped other coaches too. If it has, please give me a like down below. That would be awesome. Many of you guys know I'm Coach Parker from CoachParker.org. These are all my other youth football coaching playbooks that I sell over at CoachParker.org, along with 400 free youth football coaching articles that has a lot of this information out there. So head over to CoachParker.org and check that out. But once again, please subscribe below. Hit the notify button. Hit the like. Please comment. Let me know what you thought about this and how many weeks do you try to practice and what does your schedule look like. Would love to hear about that. Once again, this is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org. Thanks for joining me today. And remember to play for fun, and winning is funner. See you guys next time. Ciao.